big part of the reason why you all came today may have been the panelists, it may have been the topic. Who came because they liked a name they saw on the panel? Woo. Awesome, very good. Who came because they didn't like a name they saw on the panel? There we go. And then who came because of the topics that we were discussing today? Nice, very good. Okay, so it's important to have great topics if you have horrible people. No, just kidding.
That's
just
good.
kidding. We love all the people up here. That was a joke. Okay, so we have phenomenal people here today.
Sarah,
Some drove all the way up from Nashville by way of flying from Puerto Rico. So great people here in attendance today. So we're very excited for that. So the very first set of panelists that we want to introduce to you today are Jay and Ashley Nelson. Who has ever heard of Jay and Ashley Nelson before? Fantastic, everybody. So I'm going to say just a little bit about them before they give their little intro on themselves. They are some of the most influential people, some of the most kind-hearted, humble people that I have ever met. And they are so willing and eager to help anyone and everyone. And they wear their hearts on their sleeves, and they're so like, y'all.
Hey, come on, girl.
Okay, so I'm gonna let them go ahead and just introduce themselves and tell a little bit about their history in real estate and themselves in general.
All right, so we have been in the business for many, many years. Jay, 27 years, and me, I got licensed originally in 2006. So my background was Century 21 originally. My grandparents owned a large Century 21 in Louisiana. That's where I got my start with my grandmother. And so it's just kind of been in my blood, and my father and other grandfather had a lot of businesses where they acquired real estate for their businesses. So I've seen a lot on the commercial side also, and we do residential, commercial, and we also do developments. And we sell and develop and invest in Nashville and in Puerto Rico and a little bit all over the world. So, Jay, go ahead.
Ashley covered most of it.
And we have 5 kids and 1 grandbaby.
Yep. We love real estate in every aspect. I think we've had a lot of different times in the industry. That's because we've been doing it so long. I mean, everything from seeing, 2008, and I mean, we just know what we know some of the struggles that everybody has, and what we try to do is, help agents all over the place. We have a lot of agents, and they're all over the country. And everybody's got a little bit different set of goals, problems, the way they build their business, whether you're doing lead gen and buying it or so we just are excited to be here. We're going to the race. We thank you, and we're pumped. So we appreciate everybody having us. It's going to be fun. Appreciate it.
Very good. All right, next up we have Drew Schroeder. This gentleman right here on my right. Okay, how many of y'all have ever heard of Drew? Fantastic! Look at that. You got a big fan club.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will go ahead and let Drew talk. I know that he is a very successful realtor and has been for quite some time, so I'll let him introduce himself and all of that.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the intro. I am a husband to Lindsay, a dad to Grayson, who's 11, Sullivan, who's 9, Addison, who's 7, and I'm a realtor to many. I've been in real estate since 2003. To echo the sentiments over here, I was at the same company for 15 years, and the brand changed 3 different times, but I made a transition in 2 weeks because of these guys over here. So it was a great decision, and thanks for coming up and being who you've been.
Excited.
But yeah, guys, I'm here, I think, just to show I've been through a lot in this business, and if I can help anyone maybe reduce the failure rate in the industry or show you how to live a better life, maybe there's some intellectual shortcut that I can provide. That's what I'm here for, and I'm just glad everyone's here. So,
Woo! we have Alex Montagano. Did I say that right?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah. All right. So Alex, so if y'all don't know this, I just found this out last month because I was like, who is Lockstep Realty? They're actually the number 2 in the entire state for EXP right now. So that is cool. So Alex,
Yeah,
if you wanna go ahead and talk.
I have my wife Maureen. I have 2 twins that turn 2 in a couple weeks, Michael and Willa. And I got in the business in 2012 with the idea that I was tired of the corporate world. That didn't really work for me. I was a college athlete, and when I got into real estate, I had 3 major goals. One was to build a recession-proof business. It was 2012. We were kind of coming out of it. The market was softening a little bit. And then I wanted to build a business that allowed me, when the time was right, to be a present husband, if there was ever a woman that would take me as theirs. And then I wanted to build a business that allowed me to be a present dad if that was ever in my fortune. So in 2020, I started to feel a big squeeze with the size of my business. I had more leads than I could handle. I had more business than I know what to do with. I actually answered a call from a client on the party bus on my wedding day. That's like the type of life and the type of business I was doing. And I didn't really enjoy that anymore. So I started to the idea of building a team. 2 years later, Lockstep Realty was formed. We now have 17, 18. It's hard to keep track of the growth we've experienced over the last couple of years. But we focus on an incredible culture that focuses on doing good work, building strong relationships, and working with people outside of just the real estate transaction. So we tell stories about relationships with companies like Cornerstone and Hitman. Those are paramount foundational pieces for who we are as a company. Last year we sold almost 200 houses. The year before that, almost 200 houses. And we focus on hard work and just being a powerhouse in our industry. So that's built on amazing people, and that's who we are.
Woo! And it's always awkward and weird introducing yourself, but I'm Jocelyn. I am your host for today, so thank you all so much for showing up. Thank you to all of our panelists for being here. So I run Elite Icon Team along with my husband back there. He's our Director of Operations. And we have a different take on like what we thought of what a team should be. And so we definitely want to strive for helping agents become successful in the way that they want to see success.
Yeah, I love that.
And so what we do is we find out like what your goals are, what your dreams, your desires, everything else, and then we make out a map for you to be able to get to that point. So we don't ever push or pressure, and we don't. I've been a part of a lot of other teams that it was like a dictatorship, or whatever the leader wants is what happens. So true collaboration and really making sure to help people accomplish their own goals. So that is one of the things with our team that we do. Not saying that your team doesn't do that. I don't know, whatever. But I'm just saying I know that that's just for us and our team as well. So and then that's enough. I'm good talking. So okay. So next up we have. We are going to talk about NAR. This is a big subject in today's market. So how many of y'all came just because it simply said NAR in the title?
Yeah.
One? Okay.
Let's go. Yeah, come on, guys. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So, oops. But anyway, so we did put some note cards back there. If y'all have any specific questions that you want to ask, you can fill out that note card. If you want one, you can raise your hand. Somebody will bring one around to you. Or we can just do, call and answer, whatever. So we're going to talk about NAR and everything that's going on right now in the industry, as well as all of the upcoming changes with the buyer appointments, buyer agency agreements, and everything else that's to take effect in the middle of July. So does anybody have anything specific about this topic that they want to start off with?
Let's go down. Drew, you start.
So I'm actually going to, can I share the text message Ford that Ford Ness is with us. He's a great agent, and he knew I was speaking today, and he sent me a text this morning and said, what's the main message that you want your audience to take away? And I responded that the days of running around are over. The days of running a business are going to be a requirement in real estate. It's like, well, wow, that's powerful, Drew. What challenges are agents going to face in making, this shift, and how do you see yourself overcoming those obstacles? And I said, if you're not getting the guidance and you're not trying to get better each day, you're going to have an uphill battle. This is no longer going to be a situational real estate market where rates are low and it's kind of first one in wins to the house, and you're doing all these same day showings. And as agents, we do not have that work-life balance. It's going to be a skill-based real estate market. And so we're going to have to improve the skills of ourselves and all of our people. We're going to have an organized sales process. We're going to have to strive to take customers and turn them into clients. Lindsay is my wife, who's an agent here, and we at Grayson's lacrosse game, one of our mutual friends said, "Hey, I want some home in Fishers with some land." Well, we have her email address, we have her phone number. She is a customer, but how do we take her now and turn her into a client? So we have to mirror the process that's always been there. I mean, how many times have you guys had sold a listing without a listing contract? Probably 0 times, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to mirror that, and we're just going to have to start doing it with our buyers now. And what am I going to do personally for it? I'm just going to document my entire sales process from customer to client and help other agents do the same.
Love
That was a good answer.
Thank you for it.
I think-
Great questions.
Look, I think if you look back, a couple things you hit on, the idea that you could meet a client, be the first person in the door, and slam a deal through before anybody else can get there. Look, that was a skill to many. It was something that I did really well. I taught many people that it was a great thing that you could do, but that was indicative of the time of the market. And I would say that that was something you could do from probably 2018 all the way until when this comes up, right? I mean, there's been some strategy changes with listings that people require. But even yesterday, I saw an agent say, if you don't sign my contract, even though it's not indicative of the deadline that you required, I'll reduce the price of my offer by $20,000. And the reality is like those days are going far and far away. And if that's the skill that you believe that you have, I don't think it's good enough relative to what the buyer deserves in our market. And, one of the things I've heard a lot of is listing presentation, buyer presentation, and then the handshake emoji. Like, that's what's going on here. They're the same thing. So when you meet a client, you should be taking that client and slowing the process down. These people are making the biggest financial decision in their life. And for the last 5 to 6 years, we've been saying, go faster, sign here. Don't worry about that. We'll explain it later. Hurry up, sign. If you don't right now, it's over. Boom, done, gone. And look, the ramifications of that will be felt years from now with the homeowners that made poor investments, house they couldn't afford, didn't inspect properties that they don't know. I mean, there's probably a ton of business coming to Hitman for crawl spaces that were never looked at. But the reality is like slowing that process down is not only good for our clients, but it's good for us as an industry of agents. And if you're an agent that's looking around and you don't feel supported or guided or educated in the process, the partnerships and the alliances that you have in the industry are more important than ever as well. When I started from 2012 to 2018, I was a nomad. That was, Drew called me the bulldog or the pit bull. He was the golden retriever. And that was the joke we had when we met. But the longer I've done this, I've realized the better relationships I have with the people in the room, the faster, the further, and the more successful my business is. And at the end of the day, my quality of life is better. And those are things that you should all strive for. And look, this NAR thing, when it hit the surface, it was like, whoa, Nelly, here comes some change. But look, change creates opportunity, and opportunity creates opportunity for us to always be better. So those are things I think you guys should be excited about. Will it feel a little turbulent for a while? Yeah, 100% it will. But the people that are committed to the craft and the practice of what we're doing in your clients and your relationships are the people that will exceed and blow this out of the water. So.
And I think to me, it's a total positive for agents. It's not a negative at all, this new change. Because there's been clients not want to sign anything and they're flipping around and they want to go see this open house and go just call this listing agent. That's not going to happen anymore. So it's way less likely that they're going to want to sign an agreement with every single listing agent around town to go see every individual house. So that conversation is just going to be so much easier now, in my opinion, to talk to buyers and say, let me help you. You don't have to do an agreement with all these different agents. Do it with me and I have your back. So I really think that it's a positive for the industry.
I'm going to go old school. To me, this is about connecting immediately. And one thing I've always felt like is I'm very transparent, but man, when I meet somebody, I want to connect, right? So a lot of us gotta up our social game, right? You know, when we walk into that buyer consult, we gotta make an impact. And some people, well, that's not my style. I'll give you an example. My son, I'm pretty crazy, and I'll be real with y'all. And I've been doing this 27 years, and I've sold a lot of properties. And only 3 of those 27 years and everybody's got different ways of doing this business, but most of it was as a solo agent. And I just would try to make an impact at every meeting and show my value, show my knowledge. And what I'm bringing up about my son is he doesn't have this same kind of wow. He's very technical. And the one thing I told him is I said, look, when he came, is he 24 or 25? Okay.
Yeah.
He's 25, and when he came
Better
into
half.
the industry, I said, here's the deal. You better know the freaking data better than anybody in town. Like, you got to know what everything is. I said, you need to study. So when I talk to agents and I say, how dialed in are you to the actual data in every county surrounding Indianapolis? And I'll tell everybody in this room, you better not let anybody beat you, because we're on a different place right now. People used to say, where do you sell? Oh, I sell in this little, near my country club. Those days are over. People moving to Indianapolis, they want to know what are the options for the money. And so I want to encourage everybody, when you're going to a buyer consult, they need to walk out of there going, holy crap. And even like Dean, they walk out and go, man, this 25-year-old kid knows his shit. So that is important, because I think if you make that kind of impact, this whole thing with buyer reps, they're going to be like, bring it. But you got to show your value. I really particularly believe you should pull a laptop up and go through the areas, right? And talk about the different price ranges in the schools and really wow the people with your knowledge. There you go.
Awesome. And then on that, when we have buyers who are like, why would I sign that with you? They don't know what's going on in the marketplace. And so when you're trying to get them to sign a buyer agency agreement, what would you say in that process? How would you all approach that?
I think
Go ahead.
What I've been doing is I've always tried to take cold connections and turn them into warm ones as fast as I can.
Yeah.
So exactly what you're talking about. It's all referral based. I've never bought a lead in my life. And so I like to just try to communicate and tell my story better and show the value. And so that's what I've been doing, and I'm going to continue to do. But I think I need to, again, document all the stuff, because it's up in here. It may not be, in paper or on paper.
I think part of it is educating the consumer on what the new laws and the new standards and requirements are. The idea of saying something like, hey, look, I get that this is different, and it probably wasn't like this when your parents bought their house, or your parents are saying, or your friends didn't have to do this. But in the state of Indiana, to walk in the door, you have to sign one of these 2 documents, whether it's with me, somebody else, or the next person. If you're not comfortable doing with me, that's totally fine. In explaining that process of education, I think that's probably the first thing. And then the second thing, look, we keep referencing this speed to lead. Those are Zillow terms. Those are industry-wide terms that have been very popular. But I think taking this, and look, you both have said connectivity. Let's meet at a coffee shop. Let's grab a beer.
Yep.
Here are your options, and here's why these are your options, and here's what this all means. And letting look, everybody at that point has a choice. The buyer has a choice to work with you as an agent. If you could provide your value to them in the education and they leave with that wow factor, they're going to sign that document. People on our team, they're getting the document signed every single day right now. But also, if you're an agent and you can't get that person to sign that doc, you may just leave and go, I'm not working with that guy or that girl. And when they call and ask to see a property, hey, look, it's like the buyer that won't get pre-approved. They may get one freebie, but after that, as a business owner, you have a choice to make if you're going to work with that person or not, what you're going to charge them. And that's the difference of being truly what we've been as realtors for the last however many years and now being business owners and making those kind of decisions.
And I'm going to jump in right there on the note of like what you're going to charge them. I know we can't like discuss percentages and things like that, but what I will say to you on that note is the new laws, what they're saying is you can only be paid what is on that form. So if the seller is actually willing to pay a higher amount than what you have on that form, then you cannot get the amount that the seller is actually willing to pay. And so I would encourage you to possibly put a higher amount on that form. And then if the seller is not willing to pay that, then at that point you can decide whether or not you want to adjust that with your buyer or whether or not that you want to, hold firm to that. So I would just recommend maybe putting a higher amount initially.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys applied already, so I apologize if you have, but does that kind of include things like admin fees or buyer bonuses and things like that?
I'm sorry?
Does the money that you can put on the 3%, does it include the transaction fees? Is it? I don't know.
So it's just the percentage that you're charging the buyer. And then on there, if you look at the form, it actually states underneath that section that you're going to do everything in your power to try to get this amount from the seller. And then you can have the conversations with your clients in advance, like when you're going through that document with them, say like, I'm going to do everything in my power to try to get this from the seller. Do you have the ability to pay this if I can't get the full amount or a portion of the amount? If they say no, then say, okay, then here's the agreement that we're going to do. We are going to only look at the houses that are providing this fee since you are unable to pay this fee.
I like that.
And then so that way, when you're going through the list and they send you the list of the homes that they want to see, then you can go through because you've already had that conversation with them and you can say, okay, this one, the seller is not willing to pay any buyer compensation, so we're going to have to cross this one off the list. So then that way they're prepped and ready to go in advance for that. So, because if your buyer isn't able to pay financially, because most buyers are not able to pay financially, then you're going to have to pick and choose, unfortunately, which houses they're capable of seeing because they're not capable of paying.
I think in addition to that, part of this, look, the legwork that's required for the agents is pretty substantial right now. When I started in 2012, you'd get 10 houses to look at on a Friday, 10 more on a Saturday, narrow it down to 5-second looks on a Sunday and a decision Sunday night, and you move your deal forward. But at this point, if you're calling those realtors, they may say, we don't offer compensation. But if that house maybe survives the first weekend that it's listed, 30 days on the market, 60, 90 days on the market, a lot of times that tune may change if it just is a different roundabout way for that home to sell. You could call somebody and they could say, we're not interested in paying a buyer agency commission, but if I pay you full price, will you? Because then you're helping the buyer accomplish, again, like it's important, guys, to keep the main thing in all of this the main thing. And that's helping buyers purchase homes. And we shouldn't be seen as a wedge between being able to do that and not being able to do it. And a lot of times that's what the conversation and the perception of the media is. We're paid too much, we don't earn what we make, and all that stuff. But to be able to do that, to go, hey, look, here's a roundabout way that we've created for you to be able to do this. We're taken care of financially because we're an alliance for you. We're not a wedge. Let's go this route. Would you be interested in doing that? And that's what will make the good realtors around here great, is the creative mindset of how to try to make these work.
Absolutely. Do you want to touch on that before we move on to the next one?
I mean, I've always said the same thing at whether it's a listing or whether it's a buyer. I want to look them in the eye and go, listen, here's the deal. Nobody's going to outwork me. Nobody. And here's the other thing. whatever, if for some reason you can look me in the eye and tell me I didn't do my job, I'll tear up any document right in front of you. I don't want your money. I want to earn it. I said, this is how we feed our family, and I want to earn it. And I'm telling you, I've never had a problem with people just saying, I respect you being upfront. And I've been doing that forever. I've been doing that before buyer's agency agreements now that everything. So I think you got to have the confidence to have that conversation. And just like everybody said, you gotta be able to. And the other thing is ask a lot of questions. Man, I probably never sit down with a buyer or seller where I go, hey, tell me about you. What are you excited about? Why are you guys selling?
Because if they feel like you understand them, then you've got them.
Yeah, that's it. So.
And then on that note, speaking of the sellers, then what conversations are you all having with the sellers to encourage them to still pay that buyer agent commission or compensation, as we're calling it now?
I'm going to say, I have a good friend recently that came to me, and he's a good friend. And, he had that same mentality. Realtors get paid too much. And we were on a phone call with my son, and I'm trying to be real with y'all, I was trying to see whatever I could do to help the guy, because I like helping people. We hung up the phone. My son was sitting beside me. He goes, I never want to see that dude. He goes, we're not doing this. We're not doing. He has no respect for what we do. And my son was like, I work my ass off. I'm not doing this for pennies. And now I'm trying to find him somebody that'll not in our company.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get him something, but he's going to be in trouble because he doesn't respect what we do. And we shouldn't be chasing those people, guys. If they don't respect what we do, we gotta be upfront. Just say, you know what, this is not going to work out, and that's it.
I would say you have to raise the standard on when to say yes and when to say no. And then the conversation with the seller is, I think this is more, the what is not changing, the how and the when is changing. So if the buyer's agent wants to be compensated, if the buyers want representation, this is how and this is when you would pay this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. It's a little bit different, just on when that's all going to happen. How you don't know exactly how that's going to play out, but once you start getting all the offers and you start analyzing if it's a multiple offer situation, I think that we just need to be prepared to walk people through that.
It's our fiduciary duty as realtors to bring as many people into a property as possible. Offering compensation has proven time and time again that bringing buyers agents in the door that you provide compensation for them to earn is what draws the most attraction to your property. So if you choose not to pay, here's what the expectation looks like. And look, we don't have a huge track record and any data to support what the 0% listing versus the 3% or 2% or what it is. But in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, we'll have more data and experiences amongst the groups that you work within. So our team at Lockstep will have 12 months worth of data to say, these sellers chose not to do it. These sellers chose to do it. Here's what the experience is for everybody. And look, it's important to talk amongst each other in terms of what you're experiencing. I had an agent on my team come to me recently. It was a 1% BAC on a $250,000 house. And the person that was offering it was the managing broker of a brokerage in town. And I called and I said, hey, look, what the hell is this? And it's just what I got to do. And look, you know better than that. What are you getting paid on the other end? If you're taking 3 and you're paying on 1, shame on you for doing that. There's a way to do this better where we all win. And look, I've said it once, I'll say it again. The relationships in the room and how you treat each other is what's going to help your business go faster, further than you ever wanted it to be. So look, again, fiduciary duty, how many people can we get in the door? This is a supply and demand game. If we provide incentive for more people to come to the door, we shouldn't be talking about the 3% compensation, fee, whatever we're supposed to call it now. We should be talking, what is the highest net value we could generate for your home? And if 3% is what gets lumped into that, provides a higher net than putting 0 and selling it for less, that's how we need to educate our sellers. That's a pretty easy conversation. And look, I've had that conversation, and I've asked sellers, and they've all said the same thing. Why wouldn't we pay a buyer? It's easier. More people come. So I think that will be a smaller conversation that we'll have. There'll be less and less of those conversations. There will be people that do it. And again, it goes back to the choice that you have. Is that somebody that you want to work with and be representative of who you are?
Absolutely. And then also on that note, like when we're having to fight for our own compensation, fees, whatever you want to call them, fees, when we're having to fight for our own paycheck, the objection has often been like, why should I pay you this amount? And if you can't fight for yourself and provide your value, then how can you possibly be able to provide the value of a buyer agent as well? And so I would really recommend that you spend time focusing on like what value do you bring to the table as a listing agent and what value do you bring to the table as a buyer's agent. So if you go in with that mindset and speaking with the sellers, then you can have that in mind as well. And then the biggest thing I know that a lot of people say when talking with a seller and fighting for their own pay is like, what matters to you more? How much I get paid or how much you walk away with at the end of the day? Because at the end of the day, if they're willing to pay a buyer's agent as well, they're actually going to walk away with more than if they're not willing to pay a buyer's agent, because it's going to bring more people in the door, and more people in the door means more potential offers. More potential offers means higher price point on the home. And so it's just smarter all the way around. Go ahead.
The other thing too, it's the terms that get tacked into the offer as well. So how many people have taken the higher offer with worse inspection terms and paid the price down the road, or didn't have the appraisal gap on a high sale price? It's the term that gets lumped into this too. So having the conversation with sellers to say, what kind of seller are you? That's a question that I've started asking a lot. Are you a seller that wants to experience this, or are you a seller that wants to experience that? And if you help provide that to them, like, this is more than just a number, because the inspections oftentimes do have high price things. The cost of those repairs, the cost of the maintenance, the cost of the deferred that gets lumped into this has grown and grown and grown over the years. It used to be when I started, we would tell people set aside $1,500, $2,000 for an inspection. Those days are a lot different. But if you price a house accordingly and you have the right stuff packed into it, you may get waived inspections. People are still doing that, or no inspection with terms less than $2,000. That is a better protection for your client.
Yeah, and how many buyers have you all seen that actually they can't afford even their closing costs? So how are they possibly going to be able to afford to pay a buyer's agent as well? And so just knowing that going into it, you can be able to prepare your seller. So know going in what you're going to say, know the objections and how you're going to handle that. Have dialogue, have conversations with your fellow agents, with other agents. This is a room right here of all people that you can exchange information with and collaborate and be able to do role playing with. So why not take advantage of all of that stuff now? Prep yourself now, because we need to be the ones that are ready to go to hit this hard when the market changes in July. Yes, Jamisha.
Just a comment, really. I don't think I really heard anyone say this, but regardless of what the MLS says or DLC says, as far as BAC, you can still write into the further.
That's what I was about to say. Write it in.
Last year, one of my clients, it says $1. I still got 3 apples, and then my client got 3 apples for selling house.
3 apples.
So it really doesn't matter. Even if it's lower than what you want, you can ask for more, and it's up to the seller to say yes or no. So
yeah, and that's what the commercial industry does right now. The commercial industry does not state on there what the compensation is. You have to write it into your offer, and so that's absolutely correct. Mark.
So 3-part question. As far as BAC is not going to be on the listing sheet.
Correct.
So do we have to call the listing agent to find out what it is?
Yeah. Or if you're marketing a listing, you could put in there, check out this website designated for this property, and you could put it there, or check this social media, or check this avenue to show where it is. So your agent to agent section should be directing the agents where to go. If it's not in there, which for so many agents it will not be, you got to pick up the phone and make a call.
Okay. The same way then on the listing.
Yeah.
BAC to
Yeah, I would encourage, if you're representing a seller, you should make it as easy as possible for a buyer agent to find out how much money they're getting paid where it is. Otherwise, you're going to field a million phone calls every time you put a sign in the yard from agents that don't look or don't do their homework. And maybe that'll happen anyway. But yeah, that's what we would recommend.
Part 3. Have listing, offering a BAC, but then the deadline comes. Do you have to then take that off?
I've been told you the contracts are going to have to be amended.
Oh.
But that's what the contracts will have to be amended, and then what's showed in the BAC will have to change. I don't think they'll be able to just stay. That's a good question. We could get you an answer for that. Probably a managing broker question.
I got something I would say. The other part is just that communication with your buyer. Ask for permission for everything. Hey, listen, I'll give you an example. Ryan Holmes. I've been dealing with Ryan Holmes for a long time, okay? And I'm very, very upfront. I'm like, hey, look, I'm not going to tell you not to go buy a Ryan Home. I'm not going to do that. But they aren't compensating me, and I don't feel like Ryan Holmes sees the value in me. So look, I know we're looking at all these properties, but if you want to go to Ryan Holmes, I have no problem with you going in there without me. And I've had everybody that I've ever said that to goes, no, we don't even want to go see them. Because it's about asking for that permission and going back to people not offering it. You can say, hey, I know we did an agreement, but if you feel like that property's not offering a commission, hey, I just feel like if you're really building value, people are going to respect you. They're not just going to think you're about the money. So just have those real conversations with people. Tell them that's how you feed your family. This is what we did. It's how we feed our families.
Very good. We had a question from the audience. Matthew Ford asked, what protections are being discussed about bad actors on both sides, clients and agents?
Just bad agents?
Yeah.
When you say bad actors, what does that mean? Explain bad actors.
Sometimes there's been discussions where, discussions with, you sign a buyer's agreement with someone and then they, in the same day, want to go look at another house, and so they sign another agreement with someone else. Or maybe that agent says, no, I can't do it today, but I'll do it tomorrow first thing, and they've got a signed agreement. And then they, for whatever reason, the client decides, I gotta see this house right now. The agent obviously hasn't built the value of their relationship. So or maybe the agent, the client doesn't see the value, right? They attempted to, but they just don't see it.
Or doesn't care.
So, flat out, right? They're bad actors. That's my point. It's that, they just have no intention to really do business, but they want to see the home, right? So they sign the agreement. Are there protections in place beyond procuring cause laws where, now you're going to court and you're fighting and battling with another agent or, dragging people to court to try to figure it out? Is there anything in particular that would, maybe a registry, maybe some kind of a database where these contracts could be compiled?
I'd make sure you have a good relationship with your managing broker, because that's the procuring cause conversation. In any instance, it's managing broker to managing broker, or the brokerage at that point. So look, I think that's, in our instance, that's a MIBOR. They're going to have something to figure out with that. So as an agent, what I would tell you, get your documents signed, get them dated, and ask the question to your client, have you signed this with anybody else? We've been asking that question for a long time. We do a lot of online leads. We do paid leads, and something that we often ask is, have you signed an agency agreement with anybody else? And typically the answer is no, but in the instance they have, we just tell that client, you need to sever that in writing with them before we do anything for you. So I think, let's say you do run into that. You get a signed document. That should be dated. You should have it. You should have sent it back to the client, creating your own paper trail. Hey, thank you for this. I just wanted to make sure you have a copy of this as well. And then, hey, managing broker, hey, team, this is what happened. What do we do? I think there's going to be a large learning curve with this. The agents that are flexible and nimble in the process and not barking down the door of somebody going, pay me, pay me, pay me. You should still be working to find more relationships, more clients, more things behind the scene. Yeah, that sucks that you have to deal with that. But the reality is that's probably above any of our pay grade to have to deal with anyway. So get it to the people that should deal with it, let them handle it, and you keep generating your own leads and relationships and opportunities elsewhere.
So the other half of that question is for agents as well, right? Because sometimes agents are not always in the best of mindsets and they don't have the best practices. So I could foresee maybe an open house being held and there's a little registration iPad where they go in and sign their information in. And unbeknownst to them, they receive an email that says they just signed a buyer's agency. Right? Now there is that side of it as well, where there's nothing there for protection from the client side, where they didn't realize that there was something, and then they go to look at another home, and they're having that conversation. They say, "No, I haven't signed anything," and they sign another one. Now again, it goes back to the managing brokers, and they're trying to battle it out and work all that. So I realize that my board maybe just here locally, but what about out-of-state buyers, investors that are buying from multiple locations, appliances with walls and things like that? Maybe there's some conflicts there. So just a topic that I wanted to bring up and kind of get into the ether.
I think it's good stuff to talk about. Obviously, the crystal ball is fuzzy on how it plays out for probably the first 90 days. We don't have a lot of cases to go back on, but I think it starts with your first initial meeting with the people. You tell them who you are. I have a story letter that tells the story of who Drew and Lindsay Schroeder are and who our family is. And if I can't show you a house, it's probably because of these 3 kids or the honey Drew list that my wife gives me. So, but I think if you explain these scenarios, like sometimes, guys, I can't clone myself. I may not be able to be there. So don't go into, if you're going to go into an open house, let me know. If you're going to, don't be signing any. I think it's our job to maybe educate them on the front end. And then we, talk through the situation as we encounter.
Yeah, so I just mentioned we pay for online leads. There's been bad actor agents, bad actor clients forever. It's not going to change. One thing I tell our team is like, if you have 10 buyers and you lose one, you have 9. If you have 1 buyer and 1 buyer screws you, you have 0. It hurts worse. I would encourage you guys to increase the level of prospecting that you do as an agent to help be a personal buffer against that. If that guy screws you or that client screws you, that is something that's completely out of your control. And likely what is the resolved resolution, whatever it is in that instance, not something you can control. So while you're worrying about that, you're likely losing opportunity. We don't have the track record. We don't know. I think we're going to figure it out. But look, the agents that wanted to list FSBO, Redfin, $1, they've been around forever. They've experienced it. One Apple, whatever it is, like that stuff's out there forever. If you can create the value and you can prospect and build a business, the rest of this takes care of itself. And look, if you're making the biggest investment in your whole life and you don't have the money to do it, if I have friends that don't have the money to do it and you want to make a business decision to help that person for 50 cents on the dollar because you're the business owner and that's what you choose to do, totally your choice in how you get to run your business. And that is the best part in all of this. This is just all a bunch of business decisions that we get to make now. And what it will do is it'll create a workflow in terms of how you do everything. It'll become very thoughtless. It won't be as challenging. There's just a lot of unknown right now, and it'll take some time to work through that.
Tasha.
I was just going to go back to having the signing the paper. I actually ran into an issue with a lady who find out that I was like realtor number apply, but it was actually my first paper then. I
Wow.
was having somebody buyer's agreement, but in talking and getting to know her, she did tell me who she was using before, so I made a mental note of that name, and she had told me that she had not signed any agreements with anyone. I called that agent, and she told me she did sign a paper with her, but unfortunately, it all did not work out. She's like, you get confident. And then she
Yeah.
actually signed a paper with me with red flags, and then was ready to make an offer. And then she was like, no, I want a mutual release. So she has
Wow.
obviously become a problem. But it's talking to them and listening to their story. I was able to get the agent she had before and made that phone call to double check just to make sure I followed. I knew and wanting to follow the steps, but it was a learning curve. I learned something, and
I think a lot of what we're thinking too is how do you make these decisions relative to the speed of the market that we've worked in? If we can slow this process down and you get a lead and then you take them to a coffee shop and they no-show you at a coffee shop and then say, hey, can I see that house? Something came up. Red flag. Like, hey, look, here's a one-time agreement. I can let you in the house. You could sign this or you could sign the exclusive agreement. I want to sign the one time. Well, there's red flag number 2. You're not allowing me to build a relationship with you. You want me to be a professional door opener. That's not how I value myself and my business. I'm going to open this door, and I'm going to try one more chance at this. And if you don't respect me enough to meet with me or sign this additional document, I'm just not going to work with you. And I'm okay with that. You probably put your head on your pillow at night and sleep a lot better than the people that are giving you the runaround, telling you the lies and the song and the dance, and stringing you along, and then you're trying to go to bed and you're stressed, and this came up and that. They're never buying a house anyway.
Janisha?
So, a few things that you said, procuring calls, it's not just the person that opens the door. You just have to be able to prove that you were the one that did the most work on the transaction. And it's not court that you go to arbitration, you file an arbitration with my board, and then you settle it out there. But they'll do mediation, and you guys would come up with a percentage split in mediation. Most people get settled in mediation. And then if it doesn't get settled in mediation, then you come to the arbitration, and then that person that wins that gets the entire commission. So, and then as far as like when it comes to an agent, you not being able to show a house, I travel a lot, so I pay other agents to show my clients in my day. So if I'm in town and the same thing happens, I can't show, then I'm just gonna pay another agent to show, and then I don't lose my client. So that's some tips.
And if you need like a showing service to be able to help with that, if you don't have a circle of realtors that you can trust and depend on, there's a company or an app called Showami, and all it is they are agreeing to simply open the door for your client, and they know that they cannot steal your client. So you can always use Showami as well. Mark?
As a buyer's agent, what language do you use on the purchase agreement asking for the compensation?
Go ahead. I got one, but go ahead.
What's the? I mean, I got to find the picture, but our brokerage sent one out. Do you have it somewhere? Somebody ask another question, and we'll all dig this up, and we'll get your answer for you. Dan, what is yours?
It says.
Checking for a picture too.
It says.
That's what it says?
Yeah.
Keeping it real. I should be able to remember mine.
Here you go. Seller to credit buyer X amount of dollars at close of escrow.
Mutual agreement with buyer's broker.
Yeah. Seller to credit buyer X at closing. That can be a percentage of escrow to satisfy a buyer's contractual agreement with buyer's broker.
And I know on the, is it on conventional loans? They've already made an additional line on the contract. I don't know if it's all loans yet, but they are allowed to, if the buyer is asking for seller paid concessions, they can now ask that in addition to their max of 3% that they're allowed to offer. I think it's conventional. So if conventional, you're allowed to ask for 3% in concessions from the seller, you're now also allowed to ask for an additional, 3 apples or whatever you want to ask for for the buyer agency compensation as well, and it's not like they're allowing it.
Yeah.
I write mine differently.
No. You got to do it.
I just put sellers who pay BAC of blank.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's coming directly from the seller and has nothing to do with the buyer.
Cool.
So with two questions real quick. On that one, it sounds then like we have to have the buyer agency money separate to seller pay 3% towards buyers, closing cost concessions, and
Correct.
buyer agency.
Correct.
Completely separate.
Yeah.
So when you guys are doing your listing presentations and you're talking to your sellers, first question, hey, are you willing to offer compensation? Are you then negotiating what that amount is? Or are you just, when the agent calls you, hey, the seller offering compensation, are you still willing to negotiate that? Or are you telling them, yes, they're offering 2.5%?
The way that we've been doing it, or the way that we're prepping to do it, is like we are negotiating our fee as the listing agent with that seller now. And then we say, okay, and then how much would you like to offer the buyer agent? So then that way it's two separate, so negotiating both, so that way you know going into it. So then that way you know what you're willing to be paid, and then you're also trying to fight for the buyer agent to be paid as well. So it's two separate things is the way we've been handling it.
Okay, if you're asking for a specific amount, isn't that why we're in this use in the first place?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
You can ask them whether or not they're going to offer compensation.
Correct.
But if you're now negotiating that amount, which you are,
Yeah, because we're
that's
supposed
why
to.
we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Give them the option.
Yeah.
Right, just yes or no,
Yeah.
not a number.
I would think buyers would want to know upfront before going in house.
Correct.
Yeah.
Especially in VA loan.
I would say something.
Yes.
I would just have the conversation of something like, would you feel comfortable paying a buyer agency commission if a buyer came in and asked for it? Yeah. Typically, we've seen at this price point over the last handful of years, this is what we see. Is that something you'd be comfortable with that? Again, you're focusing on one big net here. So if we can get you the net that we're looking for, and this is what a buyer agent asked for, are you comfortable doing that? And so how I've had it, I mean, slap me on the wrist if I'm in trouble for this, but I go in and get my 6% or 5% and say we split them, and that's what we do. And in 6 apples, 5 apples, and in the instance that we can save less or that offer comes in less than we've discussed, that is another line item that we discuss. When we talk about net seller value or what the full package and the term is, this is just an additional term that gets dropped into the bucket. So I think, look, put the bucket and the package all together. And if you tell a seller his house is worth $800,000 and you ask him to pay 6 apples for the house and 48,000 apples in return, and somebody offers $750, then it's another line item that you put into the mix, like a date of possession or a term or anything like that.
I was looking in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I like this language because of a couple things. Seller to credit the buyer X amount at close of escrow. This is the part I really like. To satisfy the buyer's contractual agreement with the buyer's broker.
Oh.
That tells them they're in a contract. We want them to credit X amount. And guys, we've been writing stuff in contracts. Leave the pool, leave this stuff. I think what's important is you really need to communicate. If they're not offering, you say, hey, listen, hopefully you see the value in what I've done. Is it okay if I put, if you don't want to pay it, I've never had a problem with like just communicating with somebody, but I think contractual agreement with buyer's broker is critical for the seller to see it. And guys, the seller has to see the contract. Every one of these agents you're in this deal with, even the dude that owns the brokerage, he has to present the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So if something like that's in it and your buyer is saying, hey, that's cool, they have to look at it.
Well, yeah, what I had said in that instance, I said in the instance we come through the door, we're going to put something in there that your seller's to pay our buyer agency commission of 3%, and you can choose not to do it at that point. And the conversation that we then had with the client was very transparent. This was the feedback that the listing agent gave us about the seller he's working with. Is that a deal you want to walk in and try to negotiate? And the buyer immediately goes, absolutely not. Like, I'm not married to that deal or that house or whatever. That is not a path I want to go down. And look, here's the other side of it. Like, you know it now what an inspection could be like negotiating with somebody. If you're trying to buy a house that you as an agent believe is overpriced, they don't want to pay you. The agent's telling you, my seller this, my seller that, my seller said, my seller knows. What do you think the inspection, what do you think the appraisal is going to be like? So if you put them in there, you put their earnest money at risk no matter what, because the crazies will tie it up. And then you got to go back and try to get them their inspection money back, or if they paid for an appraisal. That's the extra legwork that you need to do to help create the best experience possible for the client.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so that concludes NAR Tactics and Buyer Agency Agreement. So that is the end of that section there. Our panel is going to be talking again with you all on lead generation and growing and scaling your business. So in this time, in this day and age, something that Alex said earlier, which if he hadn't said it, I was going to say it as well, but now is the time to be really, really, really doing massive action and massive activity. And because when you do have somebody who, maybe doesn't want to sign the paperwork or whatever else, you're not going to be so hurt by that one person who doesn't when you have 10 others on the back burner that are ready to go. So on the lead gen front, I do have a couple questions that I was sent in advance, so we're going to get started with those questions first. Okay. Let's do lead gen first. Give you all's your top lead generation strategies. What do you all do for lead gen?
I use my kids a lot for lead gen. They connect me with lots of buyers and sellers. No, I think I've done a really good job with just being very intentional with what do I have to do, what do I like to do, what gives me energy, what aligns with my goals, and what's fun. And so just trying to be a go-giver and help everyone along the way and be the resource for things outside of real estate. And so there's various things that I do with that. So
I do a couple different things. I paid for Zillow since like 2014, 2015. I know people hate that word and they hate the company and all that stuff, but to leverage them for the product that they offer and what they do, it's currently 27% of our business at Lockstep. We've sold over $35 million in business this year, 115 transactions, and 27% of that are Zillow transactions. So it is a way to help create. I look at it this way. You need to build your sphere and you need to work your database and you need to work your sphere, but Zillow is a gas on the fire of that database that you already have, and it patches in the slow times in your business. I work my database and my sphere pretty consistently. We do 3 client appreciation events a year. One's in February, one's in June coming up, and then we do one in November as well. We have other systems that we utilize as well. But look, I think everybody here has hobbies and activities that they're passionate about, or pets, or Drew's kids, or whatever that may be. You should look at the things that you love to do every single day, and you should try to figure out how to monetize those things. If you go to the gym, you should go to the gym with the intention of making as many relationships as possible, working closely with the ownership, so when somebody there moves, they say, Alex is the realtor that you need to call. If you love drinking wine, you should get a wine group started with your friends in your backyard where they come over and everybody brings a bottle of wine, and you guys become better friends over the idea of drinking wine together. Whatever you love to do and have passions about, you should figure out what is the easiest way to monetize those behaviors, and that makes lead generation a heck of a lot painful than cold calling expireds, FSBOs, and door knocking like how it was when I started 12 years ago. So
one thing that I do, and I believe like everybody should be thinking wide scale with this, and we can do this now because we just live in a different age. We have social media. We're all connected. We need to put it out there, but we don't need to just put it out there that I sell in Nashville, Tennessee. I can help you anywhere. I can help you anywhere in the United States. So like I have not actually been boots on the ground selling houses in a while, but I send referrals all the time, all over the country. So, and make a good income with that. So I just encourage you all to put that out there, because you can then do your research and say I don't know an agent say I didn't know an agent here, okay? Well, then I would do my research. I would look up top agents. I would find them on social media. I would see, would I even like this person? Like, I do a lot of research on who I would refer a client to. But people are constantly calling me, texting me, hey, do you know an agent and so-and-so? Hey, do you have an agent over here? Well, I actually don't have an agent there, but I can find you a really good one. So add that to how you get leads and how you get deals is by just sending and doing referral fees.
I've never called a client and said, who do you know looking for a house? In my whole career, 27 years and a lot of houses. I always call with an intent of offering something of value, always. So when you're following up with your clients, you need to have something of value for them. So we're very social people, okay? So we throw our Christmas party every year is out of freaking control. It's on our farm. It's crazy. It's awesome. Y'all can come. You'll love it.
And it's cheap. Okay, you do not have to spend a lot of money.
You just gotta have a lot of fun.
We just do it at our house. Last couple years, our assistant has been helping with the food, but typically, literally, like the day of, I go to every Sam's and every Costco and just get every platter that they have, and I bring it in. I have one person make some cupcakes, and I go to a liquor store and buy just a whole bunch of liquor, and that's it. And that's the party. So you do not have to spend a lot of money to throw a Christmas party. It is about that you are inviting people.
Oh, it's not about
even
how many
if they
people
can't
show
come.
up.
It's just that they got invited and that you are thinking of them.
It's not about who shows up. Not at all. It's about the invite. And so you need to be dialing in your 100. You got 100 people. You know them. You throw a Christmas party. It doesn't matter how fancy it is. But that invite, because you're going to have a lot of people that say they can't make it.
And let me say this, sorry.
No, go ahead, baby.
We also do friends, family, clients,
Everybody.
Other business associates. There's no separate little parties. It is just all one party. Just invite everybody. The more people, the better at parties.
I'll tell you another one is the pumpkin patch, where you take photos for their fall photos. I mean, you guys got a pumpkin patch. People got kids. People got grandkids. Hire a photographer. Put it in front of people. Also, we do blockbuster movie stuff. We do one also because this is something we can't have kids at the Christmas party. It's a little wild.
Yeah, that is adult only. The one we do.
Yeah.
But during Christmas, there's always a great big movie. Here's a little trick of that. We've had crazy movie parties. Like I'm a huge Star Wars fan. When we had Star Wars, we had to rent two of the biggest theaters. I mean, there was probably 400 people at that event.
Yeah.
And we had the people dressed up and all that.
Including us.
Yeah. And so we marketed it really well. But that's a risky investment when you buy out two theaters. So when we're doing a different movie, maybe not Star Wars or something huge, me and my assistant and Ashley will just invite everybody, which gets the invite out, right? And you're calling saying, hey, who do you want to come to the, Spider-Man or whatever. And then we stand out in front of the theater. We have our card on file at the window, and we stand there with one of our signs behind us. And when somebody walks up, they go, hey, Jay, hey, Kim, hey, Ashley. We're like, hey, you know what? We got your ticket right over here. The risk is mitigated, right? And so every one of y'all should do that.
And always do a matinee, so it's not it's not going to be packed.
And do Sunday afternoon matinees because people don't have kids playing every soccer game like y'all. And then, it's cheaper.
Our big party that we do, it's June 8th. It's carnival style. I rent a parking lot from my lender buddy who owns the building. We get 3 bounce houses that are each one's the size of this room.
Wow.
A bounce house is $250 for the time that we use it. So it's $1,000. I get 2 food trucks that we only pay for the food that's consumed. I've got an ice cream vendor that only charges me for the ice cream that's consumed. I got face painters and I got all that. And so what we do then is we go to our vendor partnerships and say, we want to highlight you guys at these events. Can you help be a sponsor of the event? I'll throw a party this year. We'll have probably in the ballpark of 500 people come, and I'm not sure it'll cost me 1 cent. I think it'll be covered by all of our vendor relationships. And so what we've done is we've created an environment for our vendors to be highlighted as people that we work with. But like Jay said, we've created this really cool party now that this will be the 3rd year that we do it. And we moved it this year from April to June just because of weather. And I have friends that are like, when's the party, man? When's the party? And then I have a lot of friends that can't make it. My kids got this or that's nap time or it's baseball season or whatever. They don't care that they can't make it. It's the fact that you reached out to them and told them they could come, and they get excited about it. Are you guys releasing new swag this year? Yeah, we got a new Lockstep t-shirt we're rolling out. If you can't make the party, I'll drop one in the mail for you. Wow. And it's just about facilitating that relationship with the people that support your business.
Yeah, so much like Alex, we are very internet lead heavy. Or at least we have been in the past. We're trying to transition more into like Sphere and organic and everything else. So we've got a database of over 20,000 leads in our pond that you can literally fish from. So our agents go in there and they can just fish from the pond and then have leads. So we've got that. We are also one of only 8 teams in all of Indiana that are on the Zillow Flex team. So we are Zillow Flex, which much like them, the phone just rings and you answer it. You can go show houses and easy money. Of course, it does come at a cost, but easy money. And then, of course, the social media. We do a lot of marketing and everything else. So Evan has his background in marketing. That's what he did in his corporate America time. He was a digital marketer, and so we've got our Google leads, and we have our website and everything else that we receive leads on, like dozens of leads on a daily basis from that as well. So we do a lot of social media and organic and Zillow, and we're working on our YouTube. I am a host of a Emmy-nominated lifestyle and real estate TV show. And so we're using that as content to then put out on YouTube and everything else and chop that up and whatever. So we do the client events as well. So that's just an opportunity. We do 2 client events per year. We do 2 community events per year. So the community is an outreach into the community. The client events are smaller and more intimate. So that way they can, we can, I guess, reward our people that know, like, and trust us, or would do business with us, or would refer somebody business. So that's, I guess, mainly ours. Anything else on lead gen?
Does anybody have questions about lead generation or anything like that? Go ahead.
What's your top non-organic ROI lead source? So not counting Sphere or referrals.
Zillow. Yeah, it is. So we pay $10,533 every single month. I have a partnership with a lender that has a contribution on top of that as well. And like I said, I've done Zillow since 2015, and there's some years I never answer the phone. I used to run it all through text. Then it became you had to answer the phone, and then I changed my spend, and then I changed this and I changed that. But what it really comes down to, guys, is just like anything, pick up the phone, talk to the consumer, provide value, and help form that relationship with them. We shifted our system as a team to help not only create a better ROI for us as a group, but help each agent on our team have a better opportunity at being more successful with those leads. On that spend this year, as a brokerage, like as an internal team, we'll do between 2.5 and 3 times our money on that. So it's a fantastic investment. But again, we look at it like, if you're going to run a team, what is your value add to the team that you have? Is it just, hey, come on my team and you get my name? And for me, like, that's just not good enough. So we look at leads as an opportunity to say, hey, look, like, we can help you get jump started with this, but also when those leads are coming in, we can help you run them. We can help you become a better agent. And then look, if it's an extra 2, 3, 4, 5 deals a year for that team member, look, you're taking the Sphere and you're growing the size of it. And then anything that the agent does with that group outside of that then becomes their leads. So it helps them grow their business as well. Like I said, it's about 27% of our business.
And I would say another great one to look into are all those like referral Facebook groups that are out there, or if your brokerage has like a referral network as well, take advantage of that, especially if you have something that differentiates you from other people. Like Patricia is on our team and she's Hispanic. And so she's joined up on all of the like Spanish speaking ones, and she's received a ton of leads just simply because they want to work with somebody they can know, like, and trust, and somebody who is like them or similar to them. So same thing with, if you have kids in athletics, if you have some kind of passion or whatever, you can create groups on Facebook or join groups on Facebook, or anywhere else within your brokerage too.
I want to add one more thing real quick, and then we can move on or whatever. But whatever you're going to do with the leads that you're going to try to generate, if it's calling for sale by owners, if it's doing expired listings, if it's hosting open houses, paying for Zillow, whatever you're going to do and you're going to invest your time in, you better do it all the way in.
Yep.
And I want to highlight a guy. He's here. His name's Dan. He's an agent on our team. He's been an agent for 6 months. He's sold over $5 million of business this year. But one of the things he did with open houses, he scheduled the open house. He took every single sign out of our closet, made me have to go buy more signs, more riders, more everything. And then he went out and he passed out 100 flyers in the neighborhood, shook hands, made relationships with everybody and said, come to my open house. It's tomorrow. Here's whenever it is. Today he was at a listing appointment with somebody that owns 9 properties that they want to sell. If you're going to do anything, you better do it all the way. Otherwise, it's the people that spend money on a lead service or they spend money on something and then go, well, it didn't work for me. No, you didn't work for it.
Yep.
That oftentimes is a big part of what the problem is. If you're going to call for sale by owners, you should call them every single day because somebody else is. But if it's part of what you do, you get better, you have better conversations, you learn how to build a relationship, you learn how to find more opportunity, and then you find inventory for the buyers that you have that don't have any inventory to buy. So if you're going to do it all the way. Otherwise, find something that you love and do those things.
I want to say something. Like open house. I was talking to Dean. We're about to launch a listing, I think, next week. And we were talking, and I said, when you go knock on the doors, you say, hey, listen, hey, obviously you step back from the door and that whole thing. But you do say, hey, listen, Vic and Kelly are your neighbors down the street, and they asked me to come invite some of the neighbors to come down because you may have someone looking for a house that's a friend or something, and it's not listed yet, but I wanted to, they wanted me to come. Then you're inviting for their neighbor. So that dialogue is massive when you're at the door, and it also, why do you go to all the doors? First of all, 90% of the agents are lazy. That's the truth. It's like Alex said, 90% of them don't. They just think coming into the business is just easy commission, apples.
Easy apples.
So they're gonna see that. And man, people like hustle, man. When they see you hustling, they see you showing up and it's hot and you're sweating a little bit. They're like, and I always, one other little magical thing I've always done. I've never handed out a paper card in my life, ever. You know why? Because I hand out magnets, and I have. I'm going to give you a quick story. I went to this really nasty house up on a hill that was like a junkyard, and I went up to the guy, and he was like, who are you? He was very, off guarded, and I said, listen, love your property. If you ever want to sell it, here's my magnet. Throw it on the side of the fridge or throw it on a dartboard. Either one, it'll help you to some degree. I showed up 3 years later. I walked on his property, and he looked at me and goes, Jay Nelson. I went, yeah. He's like, I've been looking at you on the side of the fridge for 3 years. And guess what? I want you to sell this property. So, you know what? I want to give people something that lasts. A paper card, one of the reasons, I read an article years ago about paper cards. And I just believe you shouldn't have paper cards. Here's why. The number one thing thrown away by everyone in the world is this. You. Paper, when you touch it, in your mind, everybody in here thinks this is disposable because this is what you throw away. So I love magnets. I'm a fan of magnets. There you go.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Great. Any questions on lead gen? Okay, so we're going to do growing and scaling your business now. So I had a few questions here that was sent to me. So when do you hire your first employee? How did you know it was time, and how have you evolved your staff from there?
Good one.
I can start. So I got to 75 transactions as an individual producer, and it was probably, I think, 30 something million. But you don't confuse movement for progress. I would sell 3 houses, and on a weekend I'd start doing title orders and all these different things, and I wasn't working on the business, I was working in the business. So you guys need to focus on the who's next, who else can you serve, and maybe once you get to, I would say, 30 transactions, or maybe even 20, is when you start looking to help someone, train them for transaction coordination. I think that's been the biggest difference for me, because I'm not the best at it too. If you can find somebody who's better than you, compensate for your weaknesses and put you in your best unique ability. I think that answers a lot of them.
Yeah, mine was when I started feeling disruption of the goals that I set when I started in the industry, right? So recession-proof business, when I started having to say no to opportunities to grow my business and my brand because I couldn't keep up with it, it was the secondary resources that I needed to help me do more income-generating activities like prospect or show houses or do open houses or sell property. If I was losing those opportunities to the idea that I was in the trenches trying to do paperwork or order title or things like that. And then after that, I had a stretch of business in 2020, where I had the same clients looking at similar houses at different times, and I couldn't personally keep up with those things. So I hired Daniel. He's my right-hand guy and kind of the straw that stirs the drink at Lockstep. And I brought him in and basically said, you need to be me so I can be me in more places at one time. And we had some really hard times trying to get there, but he's the right person for the job. So the scalability of that and the relationship of that has been, honestly, it's pretty bulletproof if you're in the room with the two of us. And then after that, it's each time that we look to grow, we try to get people in place before we need the people in place. Yep. So what you do is you look at the commission, the apples that you generate and the money that you make as a realtor and as a business person, and you say, where do I want to go? And you put the staff in place to support the vision that you want to do, and then you go there with the support along the way. So for us, our growth requires, we have 15 agents. That's a lot of people in the room. But what we never want to do is have agents that don't feel supported, or I don't know who to call, or I don't know where to go. We have people for all of that. So look, we have a big staff. I think we have a marketing person, we have a marketing VA, we have Daniel, we have Kristen, we have Kelly, we have Sarah helps with social media, Thano does the marketing. We've got now a CFO that is kind of behind the scenes and under the hood helping navigate the financial side of things. And all those things help us as a team highlight our agents to be the best possible agents that they can be. So every tool is provided for them to just simply go do as many transactions as you choose to want to do.
Ash?
Well, we've had the same assistant for
I know. Go ahead. Tell
27
them.
years.
27 years.
27 years, the same assistant. So our
My
situation
gosh.
is a little bit unique. And she does all the transaction coordination, but just a million things. Like I couldn't even really sit here and name them all because it may be just something random that I text her, hey, can you do this? She's just awesome. So really finding that right fit is key, and treating them well, and also understanding what they want out of life. So Kim, we don't know where in the world she is most of the time. She's at Disney half the time. And we don't care as long as she's doing her job. And that works out for us in our situation. That doesn't work for everybody. But if you find somebody like that that does a good job, be okay with that. You know, work how they like to work also. And assistants are not only for just day-to-day business things. So this last couple of years, I've gone through kidney cancer, and we've had a lot of hard times the last couple of years. And I was not able to do everything that I usually do. On top of that, the death of me is taxes. Okay, is paperwork, paying bills, taxes. We own about 20 different properties. In 2017 and 18, we flipped 17 properties that we renovated and bought, and it's always been on me. I do all the finances.
I'm the tornado that just gets it moving.
Everything.
And then I sling it to her and I'm like, fix the tornado.
But that is neither one of us are like good at that. Like I hate it, but I've always done it because I'm better than he is. And so these last 2 years, I was like, you know what? We have to have a bookkeeper. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that I've been doing it even this long. So that right there has just hiring a bookkeeper has just literally like changed my life. So look at those things. What are you not good at? Where do you need to fill the gaps for yourself? Because you will be happier, I promise.
You know, I think it's like a football coach. Don't play people out of position.
Yeah.
If they're a running back, let them run the damn football. If they're a tackle, they don't get to run the football. This is about being a talent scout and being able to identify what different people want. And I'm 100% guilty. A lot of people coach the DISC test, and you guys probably do it. I've never put a DISC test on anybody in my life because I believe it's a decision. Actually, kind of, me and her don't quite see eye to eye with this. I believe people make a decision on who they want to become. I don't believe it's your inherent moment. I mean, my wife, for example, used to be, when she was even into high school, she was afraid to raise her hand in class. I've seen her get up in front of 15,000 people and rock it because she decided she wanted. And where I'm going with that is, when you're interviewing people and you're trying to get to know them, you got to find out what they want. Our assistant has been with us 27 years. She's never been in an office one time. She's the first time she came up, I said, I'm too busy. And she goes, give me your phone. And she's always worked from home because that's what she wanted because she had kids. So play people in the right position. And one other thing, if you're not doing the kind of business where you think, oh my God, I can't afford anybody, okay? Find somebody to partner with in this room. You're gonna need to collaborate with other agents. Maybe you do 10 deals, she does 7 deals. You know what? You combine 2 or 3 people or get a TC that's charging you per deal, but you need to get leverage of some sort. Because here's the difference in, if a surgeon wrecks his Ferrari on the way to do the brain surgery, they're not calling his wife the next day to come. That's called an occupation. And like you guys said, a business is something that you've created leverage, you've brought people in, and I think that's huge when you're trying to build a staff.
But I do think it's between 20 and 30. Like when you're doing 20 and 30. Yeah.
You need some help.
You need some help.
Yeah, but for me, mine was in between doing 4 to 8 deals a month was when I personally needed to bring on somebody.
Oh.
So my first hire was a transaction coordinator to be able to help. And at that time, like I didn't even have the time to train her. And so she was like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, just do it. Just do it. I can't. Just do it. Just do it. Just help. And so that's where I hit my breaking point of where I just decided that I needed help or discovered that I needed help. And so my team didn't start on purpose, it started on accident. And it's just because, like, if you're not doing enough business, create the opportunity to find the problem. Find the problem of having too much business that you need the help. And so if your problem is that you don't have enough appointments, book so many appointments that now your new problem is like, oh, how do I possibly go on all these appointments? How do I have the time for all of these? And then you've got to get the help in order to be able to go out and do all those appointments. And then once you have all those appointments, now you have another problem of like, oh wow, look at all this business that I have. And so just find the new problems. People oftentimes run away from problems. Find the problems to run to.
Yep.
And then run right through them.
Yeah, and then run right through them.
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to put people in place to help you. I've been told, or I heard, that if you do not have an assistant, then you are an assistant. Ooh. In real estate, like, okay, so here's another thought. If you go to any professional setting at all, if you go to a doctor's office, if you go to an attorney's office, if you go to any professional office, does the person answer their own door? Do they answer their own phone? Do they manage their own schedule? Are you calling the doctor and booking an appointment directly with that doctor to go and see them?
Yeah.
Why do we feel that we need to do it all? We don't. We need to, as they have said, we need to make sure that we are putting ourselves in a position to do the things that we are best at. What are we best at? Working with the clients. Don't be afraid to allow somebody else to take the paperwork off of your shoulder, or the minutia, or the day-to-day, or anything like that. It's not showing a weakness of you to have somebody help you in that regard. In fact, it's showing a strength in you that you know enough about yourself and about your business and about your clients that you need to be able to get that help, offload the things, so then that way it frees you up to be able to go out and work more clients, churn over more deals, and help more people.
Woo!
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay, we are at 2:06 now, so we have reached the end of our time. Are there any final burning questions that anybody has?
I want to add one thing about the scalability stuff real quick. Jay said put the right people in the right spot and give the running back the football and all that stuff. You got to make sure that the players on your team are great teammates and great people. People ask how Lockstep's grown and how all this has happened. And look, in 2016, I didn't have a team. So here we are 8 years later. I went from doing 10 million to we'll do $100 million of business this year.
Wow.
That's how fast your business can change. But we have the best group of teammates that you could ever imagine. Like, I have people here shooting video for me simply because I asked and they want to do it. And look, I'm good at this, they're good at that, and we're awesome together. And that's what makes teams really good. It's not about lining up more people and more stuff and more, hey, I got 20 people in the room. If you got 20 good team players, you're going to be a hell of a lot more effective than somebody with 50 people that are all worried about themselves.
I
So
want to highly suggest, if you have not read, it's a very easy read, a book called The Energy Bus. So, The Energy Bus. It is awesome. It's about who do you allow to be on your bus and who do you need to kick out. The
Love
Energy
that.
Bus.
Oh yeah.
It's so good.